Hey guys, this is DKY from the PSR Digital development team. You may know us as the guys who originally banded together to develop the Hazard Course add-on for the well-known source engine mod Black Mesa. We learned a hell of a lot about teamwork and game development from our time spent developing the Hazard Course, and so we decided that we'd stick together and become a full-fledged modding team, and so PSR Digital was born. Now, today I wanted to take the time to make this video in order to properly introduce our first independent project as a mod team. For those of you who have subscribed to my YouTube channel or any of the other PSR developers' YouTube channels, you may already be aware of this project's existence, and heck, you may already know more about the project than most other projects in the pre-alpha stage. But for those of you who have not been following so far, in this video I'll be formally announcing our next project, 403 Aurelius. 403 Aurelius will be a relatively small total conversion mod based on the source engine. It'll be a first-person shooter, with half the game based on stealth mechanics and the other half based on shooter mechanics. At least that's how it is in the current development plan. Overall, we anticipate it to be relatively short. In terms of content, there will likely be no more than 3 weapons, probably, and 2 enemy types, and the entire mod will definitely take place in a single building. But that's not what's unique about this mod. Now, what truly sets our mod apart from any of the other countless source engine mods out there is how we're going to be approaching this mod's development. Now, back when we were developing the Hazard Course, we experimented a little with what we called an open media policy. If we load up this page here. Now, in the open media policy, we were willing to post media and screenshots of any work-in-progress assets that we were working on. So if we go to the images page, we can see a hell of a lot of really old pictures. Yeah, see all these old orange maps here, for example. Now, for 403 Aurelius, we wanted to expand that concept even further, and so we're introducing what we're calling the 100% open development policy, right here. Now, the idea behind the open dev policy is that we'll be developing this mod behind absolutely no doors whatsoever. All in-progress work will be posted in a public location, and all development on the mod will be recorded or even streamed live whenever possible. As far as I know, no mod has ever attempted something like this, and so we're treating 403 Aurelius as an experimental project. Will we still be around in a few months? Will we be able to sustain this open dev policy? Who knows? All I can say is tune in to find out. Now, for the next part of the video, I'll be giving you guys a rundown of how the mechanics of this project will play out. Now, whenever one of us posts a recording or streams live, you'll be able to go to YouTube and check it out. If you want to be notified of streams or recording uploads, you should definitely subscribe to either my YouTube channel or other developers' YouTube channels. This here is Chris Bryant, is his channel, and Jeff Mod's channel here. And there are some other people who have not posted anything yet, but you should definitely check them out anyway. Now, and you should also like our Facebook page that will probably be going up sometime soon. I'm not sure about the plans of that yet, but whenever that goes up, I'll edit this video and add an annotation or a link to the Facebook page whenever that does go up. Now, for the most up-to-date information on the status of the mod, you should check out our project at the public development website here, the link, which I will put in the description of this video and probably as a YouTube annotation as well. Usually we keep these development websites private, but for the purposes of the open dev experiment, we've set the permission to this PSR 403 Aurelius page to public. For anyone who's not logged in, you'll be able to read everything we've got with regards to the mod. You'll get up-to-date information, full story synopsis, get a nice little overview here, for example. Here's a story. I guess this script doesn't lead anywhere yet, but and you'll be able to see all that we have on this project. And you'll even get access to our bug report system. Well, you won't be able to submit a new ticket, but you'll be able to view the tickets here if you click on the Tickets tab up here. You'll be able to see all the active tickets that we have, And well, and once we actually get to the stage of bug reporting, we'll also list our bugs here too. So, for example, layout floor 19 mechanical. Here's the bunch of stuff that we have assigned to people. Here's the ticket for the taser model that Jeff Mod is supposed to be doing at some point. He's already started on this, and he'll probably be finishing it up at some point soon. Now, you'll also be able to click on our milestones in this, I believe, this roadmap here. Yeah, see, so this is our milestones page on this development website. And in this page, basically, we have some internal milestones. Well, I guess now they're public milestones, but basically, you guys will be able to see the progress that we have made so far. Right now, we're kind of lame, only at 5%, but hey, whatever. Don't take these percentages too literally. Some tickets are actually much, much larger than others, so, and this really just measures the number of raw tickets, so it's not really fair to say that, hey, we're at 5% complete. No, that's not true at all. This number is basically meaningless. Let's see, so, yeah, as you can see that these have no date set for them, and that's kind of intentional because we don't really have an internal schedule at the moment. I'm gonna give a bit of disclaimer here. I'm saying that this schedule is gonna be tentative. If we ever post a date, it's gonna be tentative. And that's because we absolutely do not guarantee that we'll be able to keep to the schedule that we set. If you read my post-mortem article on the hazard course, you'll know that for hobby projects like this, I kind of have no faith in any deadline set more than about 2 weeks in advance. And even those made within 2 weeks are kind of very open to interpretation. So if you ever see us post a deadline or a date up here, then take it with a mountain of salt and expect it to change very quickly and very often, and probably expect a bunch of missed scheduling targets. Let's see, what else? If you guys want to ask us something or make a comment on the state of the mod, I recommend that you guys post on our forum topic in the Black Mesa community forums. As of right now, we don't have a proper website of our own, and we don't have a forum of our own, but we'll definitely be working to get that set up if we can manage to find the time. And if you want to leave a comment on one of our YouTube videos, that would work too. And you can also chat with us on our live stream chats, really. I'll warn you, though, sometimes we won't acknowledge that we're being streamed live. Right, and sometimes we'll interact with the stream as much as we can on the other hand. Oh, good, this is muted so we won't get any weird echo. It's kind of up to the discretion of whoever is streaming at the moment, though, so yeah. For example, I work a lot in public spaces, so I haven't been able to keep my mic on for most of my videos for fear of disturbing people around me. So, you know, bothering people is kind of a concern that I often have. I guess if you guys want me to narrate and explain more of what I'm doing in these videos, definitely leave a comment on this video or in the forum thread, and I will see what I can do. I do apologize that most of my videos have been silent so far. Now, I guess for the remainder of this video, I'll be giving a bit of an introduction to myself, so you'll be more acquainted with what I'll be doing as one of the developers on 403 Aurelius. Well, my name is Ryan. I'm currently a college student in the United States, studying electrical and computer engineering as my major. My background is mostly in computer programming, which I've been doing in various forms since I was about 9 or 10 or something like that, although I've also been doing source engine level design since I was around 11. Back then, of course, my skills were absolutely terrible, so I've had plenty of room for improvement over the past decade or so. Now, as a developer on the Aurelius project, since I'm pretty much the only one who has programming background, you'll often see me writing code. That's not the most interesting live stream for sure, but hey, that's what this project is about, total transparency. Now, when you see me writing code, I'll often be using an editor, a code editor, called Visual Studio, and that's basically a C++ Microsoft thing that they developed specifically to to code large code bases in C++ mostly. I guess it'll support other languages too, I'm not actually sure. I don't use Visual Studio much in like my normal non-modding life. I don't really like code editors. We call them IDEs in the programming world. I don't like IDEs. I usually prefer to use normal text editors like Notepad++ here. The reason being that they're a lot more lightweight. They don't take forever to start up. For example, as you can see, the Visual Studio is taking forever to start up. That's one thing. And the second reason being that, like, you know, I find that for most of the projects that I use, I really don't need to spend minutes waiting for this stupid thing to start up and prepare the solution or whatever. For example, I have a video of me writing a program in which is meant to help grab our Skype conversations, you know, for purposes being that we're going to post them on the site, in our Skype conversations. And this, like, I kind of banged out in a couple hours, and I didn't really have to wait for a stupid editor to fire up and delay my coding. And honestly, I feel like the benefits of these things kind of diminish depending on what you're working on. But for the purposes of source engine coding with Valve's, quite frankly, awful code base, it actually is worth it because you can kind of debug inside the editor itself, unlike a normal text editor like Notepad++ here. And you're also able to basically go through the entire project on the side, since this is kind of composed of like a crap ton of files. Normally I consider this clutter, but for this huge code base, it is kind of worth it. And you're also able to kind of compile the entire build by just clicking a couple of buttons, whereas if in an editor, usually you don't have that ability. Some editors have that ability, though. I don't use an editor that has that ability because I don't really need it. Usually I just use the command line because command line works perfectly fine for me. Here's some example code from the source engine. It's written in C++. Most modern AAA games are written in C++ for efficiency purposes. Rarely are they written in like pure C or something, or any other language, with the exception of, I guess, Minecraft, which is written in Java for some stupid reason. I don't know why. My opinion of C++, it's alright. It's like, on the surface, it's basically C, but with some object-oriented features. It's actually much more than just C with OOP. It's got some really neat things that basically change the way you code if you're like a C programmer. Like a lot of like the C++ paradigms and idioms aren't really anything like the ones in C. If you know anything about coding. If you don't know anything about coding, I'm just spewing nonsense at you right now. Of course, Valve does conveniently ignore a lot of those C++ specific paradigms that are supposed to make coding a lot easier. For example, they regularly use null-terminated C strings instead of using standard strings or even their own string container a lot. And they also ignore the entirety of the C++ standard template library. I believe the reason for that is that for performance issues, they wanted to kind of highly optimize, you know, their own templates and containers for the source engine. And I guess that's a reasonable way to think about it, but hey, well, you know, it's, I guess, whatever goes, right? Especially for like a game engine that's supposed to be high performance, I guess it makes sense for you to kind of code your own and roll your own. Alright, well, that's that for coding. Honestly, a lot of this will probably be uninteresting, especially if you have no idea what you're doing. So I guess in the future, if I do more coding, and I will be doing more coding videos, I'll try and make it a little more interesting, I guess. I do have one coding video up that's directly related to the game so far. It's about me implementing the laser pointer on just kind of as an experiment. It's not like actually being used as an actual weapon yet, but like I basically added a laser pointer to the Half-Life 2 pistol, kind of as a little experiment to get me warmed up, so I can eventually implement it on our taser weapon. Yes, our 403 Aurelius will have a taser. I guess that's that for programming in Visual Studio. Now, you'll notice that on a lot of these folders, there are these check marks and some exclamation points in red, and check marks are in green. Now, this is not just simple Dropbox style checkpoints. This guy is a Dropbox one, but these are much bigger than that. And these are colored like that in Windows because we're using what's called version control software, VCS, version control system, in order to keep track of all of our files for the project. If you read my post-mortem article on that hazard course, I strongly recommend for any project, big or small, to use version control systems. The reason being that a version control system essentially allows you to keep track of the history of all of your files in your project since like the dawn of time, essentially. And having that around is absolutely critical. So if you like accidentally delete your entire thing, you'd be able to get it back at whatever state that you wanted, as long as you checked in your code. Of course, you have to create these checkpoints in order to restore to those points. And the second reason being that it's so useful is that you can very easily share your code with the rest of your team. As long as they have their system set up properly, you'll be able to do what's called a commit or a push, and this will be all this code that you've done, all of your changes that you've made to the code base or the maps or the models or the textures or whatever, all of those changes will be uploaded to a central repository where the team can then do an update or a pull, and then all the files will be downloaded and they'll basically be synchronized like that, right? And it's absolutely, basically, completely amazing for productivity and sharing a single set of files among your entire team. There are ways to basically prevent conflicting edits, for example. It's called locking in Tortoise SVN. By the way, the version control system that we're using in 403 Aurelius is called Tortoise SVN. More technically, it's called Subversion. The system that we use is called Subversion. Tortoise SVN is just a plugin for Windows that allows you to get these cool icons and these right-click menus. And Tortoise SVN is just really a front end for the Subversion back end, if that makes any sense to any of you guys. I also use another version control system called Git, which is, well, I just use that personally, and Valve uses it too to distribute the source code for the source engine, especially for the 2013 mod SDK base. And what Git is basically, it's also a version control system, except it has like a few different philosophies. It tracks version in a slightly different way. Like Git is different in that it's distributed. It doesn't require a central server, whereas Subversion does require a central server. And I kind of use both, like just because sometimes it's convenient having version control without having to connect to the internet. Sometimes my internet dies, and anyway, so that's version control. Highly recommend, if you're working on a project, to use version control because it's pretty much essential in this day and age. Now let's see. Well, that's that about coding. I'm also a level designer, so you will also be seeing me use Hammer. And Hammer is the editor for the source engine, and it's a tool made by Valve. And basically what you can do with Hammer is you can create maps, your custom levels for any of the source engine games, really, as long as they have an associated editor with it, right? So here's I can make a very simple room just right now just to kind of show what you can do in this. But I'm sure everyone who has modded, well, has been in contact with like some kind of source engine mod has probably heard of Hammer in some form or another. It's kind of required if you're going to do a mod, honestly, unless it's just a graphical update or something. And even then, who knows, you might need it. So yeah, so you can build rooms using simple geometry primitives. In Hammer, you can basically do anything that makes a level. You can add NPCs, for example. Let's look at a zombie. Yeah, sure, a couple of zombies. Yeah, so that's basically Hammer. Now, the source engine is interesting because the source engine requires you to compile your map. Well, compiling means just translating. In computer science, compiling just means translating. So right now, this raw map file is stored in a format called the VMF. A VMF is a Valve Map Format. That's what it stands for. And VMFs are basically no more than text files that kind of describe how the map is supposed to look like. So let's save this as blah.vmf, right? And then that will be our map file. I can open it again. Right. Now, a VMF file is really no more than just a text file. It's completely human readable. If you open it up in a text editor like Notepad++, you'll be able to see that really this is just text. Right? Hammer isn't all that fancy. It's just saving the information of the level as text. Like, see, here's one of the sides. It has a material, a texture, a brick texture, and these are its coordinates, right? Now, the game engine, the source engine, can't really run this sort of information because it requires some other stuff. It needs to be compiled into what's called a BSP, a binary space partitioning file, which is binary. You can't read BSP files because they're basically garbage to humans. They're meant for computers, the engine, to read. So in order to transform a VMF into a BSP, you gotta compile it, right? Compiling just means translate. And at least in the source engine, this is kind of a lengthy process. Some more modern engines, like I know CryEngine, does not require you to compile your map. What you see is what you get in the editor, absolutely, right? Source engine is not like that. So in order to compile your map, you have to use what's called compile tools. And those compile tools are basically programs that transform VMF files into BSP files, and that's kind of what you have to do in order to get it to work in the engine. Now, the standard Valve compile tools available in Hammer are kind of clunky, like no, it doesn't exist anymore, right? So if you're gonna compile a map, right, you basically have to press this button here and, well, let's save it as whatever.vmf, right? So you have these compile tools. These are some settings that are kind of technical in nature. And basically, whenever you do this, I'm not going to do it right now, but whenever you compile your map, it basically freezes your editor for the better part of however long it takes to compile. Sometimes for small maps, it takes like a couple seconds. For larger maps, it takes half an hour, maybe, if depending on how the lighting is. Yeah, it has to calculate the lighting and stuff. That's how. Well, this is going to blow up with an error, probably. Yeah. No. See, so it basically blew up my Hammer. That's probably because the map is empty. But anyway, so that's annoying. So what? And if you're gonna compile more than one map at a time, like if you have like a string of maps that you're gonna have to compile, like our mod will definitely have multiple maps. So sometimes we want to compile all of them one after the other. That's kind of annoying. You can't really do that with a built-in compile tool in Hammer. Now, so I actually wrote a compile tool myself called the Hazard Team Compile Tool. It was originally developed for the Hazard course, which is why it's called Hazard Team Compile Tool. And basically this allows you to kind of sidestep all that. It's kind of separate from Hammer, so you don't have to freeze Hammer entirely while you're compiling things, and it allows you to compile multiple maps in sequence in a queue. and you can do a bunch of advanced settings to customize the way you want to compile things. Well, and that is another tool that I will definitely be using while I make the maps. Let's see. Well, besides Hammer and Visual Studio and Hazard Team Compile tool, I guess another program that I will be using, and I have used in a couple of videos so far, is Photoshop. I am actually not made of money. This is my mom's license. This is not my license. But yeah, this Photoshop thing is, you may have heard of it. It basically lets you edit images into 2D images, right? And I do occasional attempts at graphic design, like this Aurelius logo I made in Photoshop. And this PSR logo I partly made in Photoshop. Chris helped me a little in not Photoshop, in GIMP. Yeah, I have GIMP too, but I don't use it. If you see me ever editing images in 2D, this is what I'll be using. I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. Let's make a simple picture, because I'm sure everyone has no idea how these things work. Yeah, you basically just kind of draw on it, and some other techniques, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this video. Okay, what else do I use? Alright, yeah, so Skype is the next tool that I will be using a lot in the videos. This is how we, on the 403 Aurelius developer team, this is how we communicate, basically. We have a group chat called the 403 Aurelius Dev Chat, how fittingly named, where basically we discuss everything to do with the mod. Every time we have to come up with a mechanic, or every time we want to give feedback to each other, or we want to assign kind of roles, we will use Skype. And since this is an open development project, we will be posting chat logs. I guess weekly, or maybe more than that. Depends on how we feel like it really. But we will be posting chat logs of this dev chat, so that you guys will be able to see what exactly is going on in terms of development and how we kind of made the decisions that we made. You'll be able to read through and kind of see all the conversations we've had leading up to this point. And well, basically, that is one other way that you can keep up with development. Well, alright, I think that's basically it so far. I could go on about how I think Notepad++ is a much better text editor than normal Notepad. By the way, if you're using Windows, you should not be using Notepad. You should be using Notepad++. It's a free program. It's Notepad except better. That's why it's called Notepad++. That's where the plus comes from. It's basically better than Notepad in every possible way. You should get it. Right? And you'll notice the complete lack of Notepad, normal Notepad, that I'm using, because I prefer Notepad++ so much, but more. Here you can see some MIPS assembly code that I was writing earlier as an assignment. Don't look, spoilers if you're taking that class. Yeah, that's about it for this video. Alright, yeah, so I guess the actual final tool that I will be using is OBS, which stands for Open Broadcaster Software. It's basically a free program that lets you stream or record, really. I'm using it to record right now. And since it's free, it's convenient, so that's why pretty much everyone on the team uses OBS to stream what they stream. And if that is it, then, well, I will be ending this video now. Definitely make sure to check out our website, check out our progress, definitely give us a post on our forums, well, on our forum post, and when we get forums, on our forums too. And yeah, well, we hope that this experiment will be worth it in the end, and well, and we hope that you enjoy what you guys see. Well, thank you very much. This has been DKY explaining 403 Aurelius to you guys, and well, until next time, goodbye.